today is never going to go away. So I'm just so happy for this group, for them sticking together, and for them, we're still playing. There are 8 darn teams left in the country playing, and we are one of them. That's pretty incredible.
All right, welcome in. Good afternoon. It is Afternoon Live, the Maize and Blue Review. We're here weekdays at 1 o'clock. We're part of Rivals.com, talking about the latest in Michigan sports. And that was KBA. Kim Barnes-Arico, Michigan women's team, Michigan women's coach, on her team getting to the Elite Eight. Part of what we're going to talk about today. I'm joined by Jim Scarcelli. It's always great to see Scar here on this Monday morning, back from the gym a little bit early and ready to go. What's up, Scar?
Life is good, man. A lot of good stuff happening with Michigan athletics. Our girls are going to get it done tonight, baby. I'm fired up.
Yeah, we'll talk about them. I was looking, Michigan had played at Louisville earlier in the season and lost by a bunch. The odds makers have the Cards as a 5-point favorite in this one, but when you get to this point and you get this far, you got a chance. They've already made history, so we'll get to more on that. But it's not just a Michigan women's team that is making news, Scar. You've also got the hockey team, and they were able to move on to the FrozenFour last night, which is going to be played in Boston. You see the final up there over Quinnipiac, 7-4. But this was a game, Michigan scored in the first minute of play. They're up 4-0 heading into the third. And if a game's 2-0, I'm watching every, single. It gets to 3, then you're in trouble if you're the team that's behind. It gets to 4, the game's over. So heading into the third period, I thought this one was over. But inside of 7 minutes, one shot for Michigan, and Quinnipiac, the Bobcats, made it a game. They got within 1, and they're actually on a power play in the third period looking for the equalizer. So it was not as easy as you might have thought if you saw them up 4-0, then saw the final of 7-4. It was about a hairy 5-10 minutes there.
Yeah, that happens you can score fast in hockey. You make a mistake or two, get the power play. I got a lot of buddies that played hockey that are fired up, that are making that trip to Boston. I was going to games for a long time over at Yost, man. I remember going when Giordano was the coach, when they really weren't winning, and Red Berenson got them going, and now Mel's keeping it going. A lot of the hockey guys are really fired up about about Mel and his leadership and the direction of the program. So, yeah, you got the Broncos. We got Western Michigan out there, right? The Final Four.
Well, I've got the bracket actually here. We can take a look at it. It was the Gophers.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, Western got beat. That's right.
Yeah, so you got the Gophers, and I don't know what Minnesota State's nickname is. You have to pardon me on that. You got Denver taking on Michigan in the first FrozenFour. That looks like it's going to be it all the way till April the 7th. That's going to be a great weekend. You've got on Thursday Michigan and Denver. You also have the Masters starting that weekend, and you get to April 8th. That's opening day here in Detroit. So that's so if you get to a Saturday championship game, you got the Tigers ready to go. Major League Baseball. The first 2 weeks of April are looking good.
Yeah, that'll be great, man. I'll be tuned in, watching our girls, watching our guys hockey, and then we got the spring game going on too. I don't even know if that's televised, but hopefully we can get a peek at that Michigan spring football game.
I hope so. Like, last year that was one of the reasons that they used. Like, no, they're not going to film it live, so we're only going to let a select few in. I thought they bobbled that one. It ended up working out for them. When you have a nice season, people forget about that, but. Yeah, the spring game. We'll get to that in a little bit as well. Boston, your friends will be able to tell you, Michigan won their first national championship down in Cincinnati. I was at that game. I took the drive down to that stadium to watch Michigan win their first national championship in '97. A couple years later, Do you know where the site was in '98 when Josh Langfeld scored and Michigan won their second national championship? Do you know where that one was at, Scar?
No, Danny, I'm guilty. Was that Joe Louis?
It was in Boston.
Okay, good.
I don't know about the same arena, but they're heading back to Beantown, so maybe shades of '98 there, and that'll be great. You're right, Brett Berenson. You mentioned him; he was the head coach there. His assistant Mel Pearson, and he's got this thing rolling. This team is stacked; they're full of stars all year long. Everybody was saying it's FrozenFour or bust. That's great, but that puts a lot of pressure on you. You know, they didn't win the Big Ten; they didn't win the Big Ten tournament, and here they are as the number 1 overall seed, and they're sitting here and in good position.
Yeah, we'll have a lot of Michigan people there. A lot of Michigan people on the East Coast, so we'll be represented good. And yeah, I know they were probably a little disappointed the way the season went, not winning the Big Ten championship, but they got a chance to redeem themselves. A lot of really good players, and hopefully our better. But we got better players. You know, we got good coaches, and we got let's make it happen.
Yeah, they're stacked. Good luck to them. That's going to be great. You also had, and mentioned it a little bit, you had the women's team getting the victory over South Dakota. There you go. That's the tradition now, Scar. You get up there and you get your name, and there it is. You put it on the bracket there. But
I liked how she was pointing at the name Michigan on the front of the jersey. I like that. She's got the right mindset, man. It's that's how we roll in that whole Michigan athletic department, man. It's team, it's Michigan. And it's always been like that. And we've always when I was an athlete there, we all knew each other, wrestlers, hockey, girls, boys, basketball. We all, were grinding, going through the same kind of stuff. And there's that unity and cheering for each other. And that's good to see, man.
Yep. And Kim Barnes-Arico is a pretty interesting coach. It's not like she played at a big time college and then was a GA somewhere and wasn't with his pipeline. She went Division III. She quit her job as a school teacher to essentially get paid nothing at her first coaching job. I was reading the story about her today. She almost lost their first game by like 100 something, like for real, 194 something points. But slowly and steadily just kept going and working and outworking everybody and getting all the way up through the ranks to then St. John's and now at Michigan. And it's not like Michigan, they've had individual players, but it's not like they had a star-studded basketball program. And she's got them to the Elite Eight for the first time and a chance to go to obviously the first Final Four tonight. What an accomplishment already. And they got when you think you need a great player, they got a great player right there, 00 Naz Hillman.
Yeah, coach has done a great job. Michigan's it's not overly hard to sell Michigan sometime, but she's done a great job. She brought good players in, and we got a lot to sell. Danny, I don't know if I told you, but I have a friend of mine was a Michigan coach back in the 80s. She was Gloria was the head coach, Michigan basketball coach back in the early 80s, and she told me the stories of how difficult it was. And you had Chrysler Arena. That's all you had to practice. And you had the boys team and the men's team, and maybe they didn't always get the best time to use the facility. And now you look at the facilities. I talked about it last week with our other sports, our gymnastics, and our wrestlers. And, we can compete with anybody with facilities now. Our girls now can practice right after school. They don't have to come at, 8 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock at night. So all this stuff is not by accident. All those little things matter with recruiting, facilities, and Michigan's right there, man, at the top, being able to compete and give our girls a chance to win. These things happen with, a lot of work from a lot of people.
Yeah, the facilities are great. Played over at they're having a practice in the, CCRB like they had to back in the day, to split it up with the men. now that they have that practice facility. You know, another thing with the Final Four, the men's Final Four of the weekend, you saw Carolina advancing, and you saw their jump man. The whole thing with the Jordan and the jump man line for Michigan, that helps out the men's team. That helps out the women's team too. That brand across college basketball, that doesn't hurt. People come in, even if they're not coming to Michigan, they like putting on the shoes and getting a couple pairs and, you know, stand in front of all that. It's a pretty sweet setup. I would say that deal that they entered into with the Jumpman has paid off here for Michigan.
Hey, I've been around recruiting a long time. My brother got recruited. I got recruited by everybody around the country. I was a high school coach. I've seen it. And you'd be surprised what influences a kid. I mean, it's incredible. Everybody has different things that matter in what they look at in a school. And, you know, and then there's kids that look at that stuff. You know, what's the jersey, man? What do you got? Adidas, you got Nike, you got Jump, you know, what are you doing? Is my name on the back of the jersey? You know, or is it not? What kind of shoes are we wearing? Those things matter to some guys that are getting recruited, you know. And
I remember the story of Michigan hockey assistant Bill McCult. You know, he was behind the bench last night. I saw him with that beard. He's got the same hairstyle as I do. But back in the day, remember they asked him, you know, what was I think he's from Canada. You know, what attracted you besides the hockey program? He said the Fab Five. It was the Fab Five, seeing them, and you know that's what that was the big deal for him. So you know, you never know which sport, whatever it's going to be. But yeah, Bill McCult chalked it up to the Fab Five. I'll have to ask him. That was a long time ago. I heard that story. I talked to him a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, but I'll have to see if I didn't ask him about that particular story. Well, the men's team gets beat by Villanova. Villanova advances to the Final Four. I don't know. Does that make you feel any better if you're a Michigan fan that the team you lost to gets to the Final Four?
I don't know. You know, you're disappointed you lost. Villanova's they're a well-coached team. They're a good team. They play smart. You know, our guys will look at it, and coaches will look at it. And, you know, all those teams that are in there, they're all very well coached. They all got big, athletic, highly recruited players, man. You know, they're Duke.
They're all blue bloods. They're all blue bloods.
They're all blue bloods. They got the top of the players in the country. You got to bring in the right transfers. I mean, Duke brought in some stud transfers. You got to bring in the right guys, man. Although you know, we're going to transition here into talking about Bo in a second, but you know, all four of those coaches, you got to make great decisions in building your team with freshmen and transfers. You know, who are you bringing in every year? And those decisions are so crucial. And then you got to be able to X and O. Then you got to be able to scheme. And then you got to be able to hire great assistant coaches. You know, and all four of those guys, you know, they do a lot of good things. And that's what if you want to be there, be a Final Four team and win Big Ten championships on a regular basis, we got to be hitting it on all cylinders, man, because there's good competition out there.
Yeah, I wonder how much Juwan Howard being hired by Michigan ended up factoring in, like Indiana went after one of their favorite sons and Mike Woodson, a guy who had spent years in the NBA as a head coach, and then Hubert Davis, a Tar Heel. After Roy Williams retires, they could have gone after a bigger name, but they say, hey, let's go with a Tar Heel man, and so to speak. And, you know, they went with Hubert Davis, and people might have wondered about that during the year, but see Roy Williams up in the stands and Hubert Davis out there, it maybe factored in. Didn't hurt.
Yeah, you got to give one of your guys a shot. I imagine that would always be a strong alumni preference, you know, but the guy's got to win. You still got to win, you know. Yeah, because we've been through that with, you know, Coach Harbaugh finally got it done, you know, but does that person get a little more patience than the next guy? I don't know, but yeah, there's a trend there, you know, because hey, Juwan is gonna, you know, Woodson and Juwan and David, they're all gonna be in living rooms probably recruiting against the same kids sometimes, you know, all three of them. And who can close the deal out of those three guys? Bringing in the top transfer, bringing in the you know, a top 20 kid in the country, a freshman kid. So you got to be a closer, man, and that's a huge skill that the head coach has to have. Who can close the deal with the mom and the kid?
Speaking of Juwan Howard, we will get to him. We'll get to Will Smith and Juwan Howard coming up. KC making the reference from last night's Oscars. I'm sure that most people are fully aware of what happened there. We will talk about that coming up at the end. How about first Michigan basketball? And before we get into, I'll let Scar think about it a little bit. DeMonte Jones indicated over the weekend that he is going pro, so he is not on this list. You see the Valiant management group up there on the screen, VMG. We want to thank them for Valiant Management, U of M, for our top 2 prizes in the TMBR Survivor Pool. That is over, and thanks for the Michigan versus everybody gear from Valiant. We appreciate that. And we appreciate everybody who took part in our Survivor pool. And it came down to 2 guys, both picked number 1 seeds, and they both lost. So it came down to a tiebreaker. All right, Scar, who goes, who stays? Hunter Dickinson. These are my percentages here. Don't let these affect you. Hunter Dickinson, I think 80% chance that he goes pro. If you think about it, I'm sure people have asked you, who do you think's coming back next year? What do you say when they ask you about Hunter Dickinson?
You know, Denny, I just went on that little comment he made. I'm almost on the total opposite end of you. I think there's a 20% chance he goes because he indicated, he talked about, he thought he let his team down. And the improvement he had from last year to this year with stretching his game, he knows he has to be an outside threat to be a draftable kid. There's not much he could do really athletically to be a better defender, you know, maybe getting a little leaner, but I'm on the other end of that. I think he's coming back. And also I want to pump up Valiant. You had young Wangler on there. That's good stuff. I got a lot of Valiant gear. I highly recommend trying to get some of the Valiant gear in your wardrobe. So I'm on the other end of Hunter Dickinson, Denny.
Yeah, well, Tim McCormick thinks that Dickinson's coming back, so I think his percentage it would be above 50 about him coming back. So it would be different to me. I hope I'm wrong on that. That's me just reading it. I don't go on what guys are saying right afterwards. I've seen too many emotional news conferences and stuff like that. Although I've been wrong before. I remember one of my favorite Michigan Wolverines of all time, running back Tyrone Wheatley. And I thought, Tyrone Wheatley's as good as gone. He held the press conference and everything. And I'm like, well, you know, this is where he says he's leaving. He's going to, do what's best for him and his family. And Wheatley came out and said, I'm coming back, which was great for Michigan. And it worked out great for Wheatley as well.
Yeah. So Diabates in Houston, I see them. I see their names on those lists. Houston was like number 20 some on some of them, and Diabates the top, potential first round pick, and then other polls have them lower. So, I'd like to see them both come back. They improved a lot as the year went on, but I don't know. They see Caleb. I know free throw shooting is important in the NBA. Caleb Houston is a 6'9" kid. He can make his free throws. Would they put him? I don't know. I'd like to see them both for one more year, get stronger, get thicker, because then we'd have something real special if those two guys come back with Bufkin and Collins and maybe bring in one or two good transfers. We could have something special.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I wonder because Diabate is from France and Caleb Houston is from Canada. If there's when you talk about the student visas, if these guys are going to be able to benefit from name, image, and likeness, and if they don't, because that was not something that in some other people's circumstances, like David Ajabo, if these guys will be like, who cares if we get drafted? We'll just go to the G League. Now, I don't know. Like Caleb Houston, there was nothing really that he did this year that any team would look at him and say, oh yeah, let's get him into the fold. Other than that, he was very highly touted coming into Michigan. So we'll see on those guys. I hope both of them come back if they do. And, both of them I think could benefit from some strength and endurance. Michigan could be off and running after that, like you say.
Yeah. We need to get a good little point guard that can score. Sam Sessions at Penn State. I know we're talking to the big kid at Texas Tech, a 6'7" guy. We need guys that can make threes and stretch the defense and give, so they can't attack Hunter so much. But Juwan will put it together, man. He'll put the right pieces of the puzzle together.
Well, Juwan Howard is a Michigan man. He played at Michigan. You wanted to talk about the idea of a Michigan man. It really came into popular lore in and around college basketball, really, even though a football coach is who said it was when Bo was an athletic director and Steve Fisher was an assistant, and Bill Frieder indicated that he was leaving to go to Arizona State after the '89 season was over. He said he would stay around and he would still coach the team through the tournament. And when Bo, got that news, Bo came out and said that he was just going to go ahead and let let Bill Frieder go because he wanted a Michigan man coaching a Michigan team, and the rest is history. And Michigan went on and won their first basketball championship. But after that, the Michigan man has been used when you're talking about hiring a football coach or basketball coach. People will say, hey, we want a Michigan man.
Yeah, Denny, I remember that speech like it was yesterday. And I think to understand that speech and the way he used it, it's really deep. And I'm going to get into it a little bit. I'm going to talk about Bo for a second. You got to understand Coach Schembechler. The guy had many, many talents, okay? Great evaluating coaches, hired great coaches, brought in and recruited great players. He sized up the right players. He was visionary. He brought Mike Gittleson in before anyone else had a strength coach. He could recruit players and parents. He could X and O with anybody. But one of his biggest strengths, and the guy had multiple strengths, was psychology. The psychology of motivation, motivating an individual, motivating a team. Okay, he was an expert of that. Okay, so when we as players, we heard the term Michigan man, Michigan way of doing things. We heard it on a regular basis. We heard it all the time. So when I heard that speech, there was nothing new for me. I understood the man and how he was always thinking about motivating. Okay, so he was always developing confidence in his team and pride. That we're special. You're Michigan, you're special. You're Michigan, you're confident. We're Michigan, we go to class every day. We're Michigan, we practice harder. We hit more in practice because we're Michigan. You do things right because you're Michigan. We heard those kind of phrases on a regular basis. And he understood you were going to play in front of 100,000 people. So he had to have your mind individually and your mind as a team really, really strong, confident. Okay. And, that we practice harder. But I also want to say this, never with any kind of arrogance, never with as much as he was instilling pride in us that, hey, you're Michigan, you're special, you practice harder, you work harder. He was never downplaying the opponent. He never taught, to disrespect the opponent. So anytime the man said the word Michigan, that word, he never said it timidly. It was always with strength. It was always with power. This is Michigan, and this is how we're going to do it. So that word in his vocabulary was always said with power and strength. Okay. And, to develop the confidence. It was a mindset. He was developing a mindset that Michigan is better. You're better. You're going to find a way to win because you're Michigan. You're not going to quit in the fourth quarter because you're Michigan. You're going to run harder in practice because you're Michigan. You're going to practice harder. And so he was constantly instilling that. Companies do that, Denny. Businesses do that. They're developing a mindset, of what they want. Okay. So there's two words that we heard at the football facilities more than any word in the English language from Coach Schembechler. We heard the word team and we heard the word Michigan, and those words were constantly pounded into our head that we're team guys and we're Michigan. And, there's that one speech that's on YouTube. Coach Schembechler's talking about the team. We heard that speech done every other day, in terms of pounding at the team concept. I'm going to give you one example of the word Michigan. Every Monday we ran a mile. We'd run out, we'd go through the other team, and at the end of practice we would run a mile and we have a good stretch. That mile was called the Michigan Mile. Mike Gillis said, okay, it's time to run the Michigan Mile. He didn't just call it, we're going to run a mile. We're going to run the Michigan Mile. Because in their mind, in the way we were constantly reinforced with the word Michigan, what that meant was, if you're going to go run a mile, you might make that in 6 minutes. But if you're going to run a Michigan Mile, you're going to run that in 5 minutes and 45 seconds. You're going to knock time off your mile because of the way it was presented. Because it's the Michigan Mile, you're going to run it better. I coached high school football for 25 years. One of the first things I would do is teach my kids, and the name of our school was Clintondale. I taught them how to do a Clintondale push-up. We weren't going to do a regular push-up. We were doing a Clintondale push-up, and it was going to be perfect. It was going to be, and I explained it. The same thing with the Michigan Mile. It was going to be with great effort. So when Bo gave that speech, when Frieder left town, Bo knew exactly what he was doing. He knew exactly what to say. He knew that he had to do two things. He had to unify that team and build confidence in them, and build confidence because we were kind of unsure, man. We just lost our head coach. Bo put that to rest right away, man. We are a confident group, and we're proud, and we got a Michigan guy leading us. So by him saying what he said, he unified the players, he gave the players confidence, and he unified all the Michigan faithful. The whole Michigan community was unified. The players were unified. He knew exactly what he was doing by what he said that day. So I guess that's I just want people to understand when we hear the term Michigan man, and what it meant from Bo Schembechler was instilling that pride, instilling that confidence, instilling that mindset, that you're special and you do things right and you prepare right. And in the end, when the game is tough, you're not going to quit because you're Michigan.
Good explanation. Impersonate Bo. Say Michigan like Bo would again.
Because you're Michigan. You're going to practice like Michigan. I remember one time, they looked at everything. The way we entered the field one time and that 1984 team that lost 6 games. And they videotaped the whole game, us coming out of the tunnel. And we had our meeting, he says, that's not how Michigan comes out of the tunnel. That doesn't look like Michigan. And he went on and on. And he knew what he was doing. He was establishing and continuing to pound that everything we do has to be with great effort, has to be with pride. And he never, ever, ever said the word Michigan with any kind of timidity. Is that a word, Denny? Timidity?
Yes.
Timidness. Passiveness. You got it? It was always said with, I'm going to punch a hole in the wall type veracity. Okay, that's how he said that word. It was never, ever casually said. He said it with strength and power because he was reinforcing, the meaning of that word in our vocabulary.
It's interesting. I was talking with a former player who played for Bo 2 years ago when the pandemic season where Michigan went 2-4. A couple of instances, he said, I knew they weren't going to win those games by the way they ran out of the tunnel. And I think he's talking about what you were talking about there. He's checking out the way that they ran out of the tunnel. He didn't like it.
Yeah.
He played for Bo. Bo was big on running out of the tunnel. I've got 2 things. Good stuff, Scar. You could weigh in on either of these. You familiar? Have you ever watched the show Hard Knocks? The Lions are going to make their first ever. They're going to make their debut on Hard Knocks. It's been going on for a long time, but 5 episodes. It starts in August, and there you go. Culminates with the season finale. So the Lions are going to finally be, after all of these years, on Hard Knocks. Any familiarity with that show?
Oh yeah, I've watched. I don't get HBO, but I've watched it. The replays when you get it later on YouTube or whatever, and I've watched them. But yeah, I like it. It's good. I like watching the coaches coach and the interaction with coaches and players, and it's good stuff. And they get into it, and it's good. It's good from a play. It's interesting stuff. Good stuff. I like the coaching staff there. I think they got some tough, competitive guys. I hope they, just got to get better players, man. But yeah, that's good stuff. I'm glad to see it.
Yeah, I wish Michigan would go back. I like, the more access, the better for me. I don't think your opponent's going to get very much out of that. I know they all watch it, but it was like when Michigan did their all or nothing, when they had the cameras in there behind the scenes. You get what they hear the guys are saying on the bench, on the sideline, after the fact. If there really was anything that was being said that you thought would tip your opponents, you may have some editorial say over what was being put in there or not. I don't know exactly what the agreements are with all or nothing, how that worked, but especially with, I remember Harbaugh saying when it was happening, it was too bad that he couldn't give any of the players any money for it. It would seem to me like a pretty good idea. Let's get another all for nothing, part 2.0. Let's see some of the proceeds this time, going to the players, but maybe something like that would happen again. I'd be for it.
Yeah, that'd be great, man. Anytime you can compensate these kids, because Denny, every single thing you do affects recruiting. Everything matters. So yeah, we got to be on the cutting edge of everything. We got to take care of our players, and it matters. You want to recruit against Ohio State and Notre Dame, boy. Alabama, in Georgia. You better not be missing it on any front, because you will get out recruited, and we can't afford it. We want to play with those guys. You got to recruit with them.
All right, let's do it. All right, and Scar, last night, here it is. You may not have watched the Oscars, but you may have heard about it. This right here, Will Smith, and he slaps comedian Chris Rock across his face for saying something about his wife. And the question is, and this is the question that everybody is being asked this morning, do you think it was staged? The Oscars are getting quite a bit of coverage off of this, and you can fall into the category of there's no bad publicity. They're certainly getting tons of publicity off of this. But do you think that Will Smith smacked Chris Rock on purpose, and this was not a stage? It took place on a stage, but do you think this was a staged event or not?
No, I don't think it was staged. No, I think he just got upset, man. Listen, I've listened to all type of comedians, and I saw Don Rickles in person a long time ago, man. He attacked everybody. I knew what I was getting to when I went in there, though, and but I don't think it was staged. And comedians gotta, it's a tough job to do. How far can they push it? And I just I don't like violence in those kind of situations. Got to try to find another way to do it. But it's just not a good look for our. Listen, I'm a retired teacher, Denny, retired teacher coach, and everything is always, we're trying to teach how to solve problems without violence. So. That's my view on it. How can we solve some problems without resorting to violence? So,
yeah, there might be some other part of the story that we don't know here with these two here. You see so many roasts, and you see so many comedians making fun of the actors at the Oscars or at the Golden Globes. Kind of goes with the territory. So it's that it. From that part, if it was just, I keep seeing people like reenact or show the video, the blow by blow for real, and how Chris Rock was like leaning in, and that Will Smith was laughing after. And if that was it, and we didn't have anything else, but when Will Smith was out there in the crowd, and he was saying, get your get her name out of your mouth and all this kind of stuff. It was awkward. It seemed real to me. So I'm with you on that. I thought so too. But then there were a lot of people on the internet. I know you've already been tired. You said you're tired of this story. You were tired of it in the tournament, where a lot of people were comparing Will Smith and Juwan Howard because, of course, the slaps heard around the world. But you're done with the Juwan Howard part. Right? You don't want that to play out anymore.
Hey, man, I don't control what media thinks. I think right here with you and I, though, I'd rather not talk about it. I'd rather get into other stuff. But whatever, man. That's what you want to do. The things he said after, man, sitting in the stands, that didn't look staged. He was upset.
Yeah, I agree with you, and it's getting a lot of coverage, obviously, and it'll be talked about quite a bit over the next few days, and we'll pop back up. There you are, there's a full screen of Scar now. I like that. You got it in. All right, Scar, the spring game. So football, you went to a practice last week. Coming up this Saturday, it will be April the 2nd. We are going to have a spring game, and the fans are invited.
Yeah, I tell you, Denny, looking back as a former player, one of the greatest days of the calendar year for a college football player is the spring game, because now you've got some time to regroup, heal, maybe just be a student, go to spring semester, summer semester, and just train. But yeah, it's a big day as a player. There was when I was playing, we had the hot dog versus the steak deal. The coach would pick two coaches to coach the thing up, and they would select the staff, and then they would draft the players, and it was a competitive game, and that's how we did it. And then we had a golf outing after. Bo took the team. We went and played golf after, and had our steak and hot dogs after. None of us could golf, but it was a fun event. It's what we did, but after the spring game, there's a lot of happy players. I just can't tell you how happy they are. There's usually a party at night and a lot of happy people. So I just want to mention that. But if I'm watching this scrimmage, what I would tell people, I don't know if it's on TV, if you're going, the big thing I'm looking at is the edge guys. Who's replacing Ojabo and Hutchinson? Okay, I think Morris is one of the guys that's the front runner on one of the spots. But I see 5-6 guys competing for playing time in the other spots. Is Harrell going to step up and show he can rush the quarterback? Is McGregor going to show he can, adjust to everything and be I think he's a pass rusher. Can he do all the other things? Can Taylor Upshaw be the guy that can play the run, play the pass? So I'm looking at that position. A lot of guys competing for one spot. D-line, who's going to be opposite Mozzie Smith? Same thing there. There's 4 or 5 guys battling it out. I'd be looking at those guys. Who are the guys that are rotating in there and the inside positions? See who you think stands out. Secondary, we got a lot of new people in the secondary. Look at the scheme. I don't know how much you're familiar with what we're doing schematically. I think it's going to be very similar. I think it'll be very vanilla. The spring games are always vanilla because the opponent will have that. They'll be able to film it and scout it and look at it. So it'll be vanilla stuff, but I think you're going to see the stuff we did last year.
That's great stuff.
Yeah. And I think, Danny, offensively, what I would look at is I want to look at them young QBs. I really want to look at the 2 freshmen more than anything because I know what JJ can do. The other kid, the transfer. I want to look at those 2 young quarterbacks. I would really focus on them. And who's our third running back? We know who the top 2 are. Who's the guy that shows that he can be the third running back? Because there's going to be a lot of competition there. Tight ends, who's the third tight end? We know we got the 2 back. Offensive line, I think center is a lot of competition at the center position. The highly recruited kid is going to compete against the transfer kid. But who are the top 10 offensive linemen? That's what I'm going to be looking at. Who are the top 10 guys that's going to be able to rotate in and get some playing time? And then these young receivers, man, let's see if who can make plays. because, you know, a lot of guys can make plays in practice, but the spring game is the one time there's fans there. You really want to play well in the spring game. It's going to carry a little more weight than just a normal scrimmage. So, you know, who's making plays, who's making catches, and who's doing those things. And then I'm going to be looking at scheme. Are we doing anything different schematically? But I think our foundation is set offensively. We are what we are now. And I think we are what we are in defense too. But I'll be looking at a little tweaks schematically on both sides of the ball.
Well, there's good news and bad news for me as I see it. The good news is they're not playing the game today because this morning it said it felt like 5 degrees, and right now it says it feels like 14. Too bad the game was not being played this Wednesday where I see a high of 63 degrees, but on Saturday right now, a high of 47 degrees. So around 40 degrees could be worse, but you know, you hope for the 50s, but the 40s might keep that crowd. If it was in the 60s, that crowd might be 40,000. I think if it was in the 50s, I would think, 30,000. That the temperatures are going to be in the 40s. That sounds like about 15,000 to me. So that's my read on the situation. Call it fair weather fans if you want. That's how I see it.
Well, I tell you, Danny, winning a Big Ten championship, there'll be a lot more people out there than there would have been in the past. There's a lot more people rocking the Michigan, the maize and blue. We see it everywhere. I don't know if you're noticing the difference. I go to Walmart and I see a whole lot more Michigan gear. And we keep winning basketball, football, girls, hockey. You're going to see more and more Michigan gear around town.
Well, and they didn't have one last year, so that might play into the attendance as well. All right, Scar, you did a great job. Got a final thought?
No, good luck to the girls. Good luck to the boys. And go see that game. So go see that game Saturday. Support the Wolverines. Go Blue.
Jim Scarcelli.